Hello, Kehilat Darchei Tzion. We are on Erev Shabbat, Chol HaMoed, Pesach, Modiin L'Simcha to everyone. And this week in the Haftarah we read Chazon HaAtzamot HaYeveshot of Yechezkel, the prophecy of the dry bones in Yechezkel, Perek Lamed Zayin. And we read about the bones that are dry and for years seem to have already lost all their flesh and blood, and they're taken apart from each other, and suddenly they come back to life. And of course, this prophecy is there as a metaphor to show Yechezkel the fact that Am Yisrael even though Am Yisrael is in exile for many years, Am Yisrael will come back and live together as a nation. Of course, this is connected deeply to Pesach, because Pesach is talking about somehow Am Yisrael being born from a reality of very difficult slavery and exile in Egypt, and then Am Yisrael is born. So now Am Yisrael is reborn, is coming back to life after losing its life and going to exile to another country, staying there for so many generations. And the prophecy is you'll come back to life. And I want to see two different points about this haftarah. One, Harav Medan points out the order of the healing of these bones is very important for us to understand the stages and steps of redemption. First, the bones come together. The second stage is that they have flesh and skin. And only in the third stage, the wind comes, the spirit. Maybe it says the word ruach can mean both, right? There's wind, there's spirit that comes into these bodies, and it comes from four directions to these bodies, and then they come back to life. And if you try to think, what does each stage resemble? So first, Am Yisrael were scattered in exile, each one living on their own, each one for themselves. And first of all, to come together, unity, this feeling of togetherness of Am Yisrael. The second stage is flesh and skin, and that is when Am Yisrael start to live together as a nation. There's leadership, there's a government, there's working together as a nation, awakening to be a nation. The third step is the spirit. The third step is the ruach that comes from Hashem and gives the spiritual aspect to this body called Am Yisrael. And we can learn from that something about the stages of Am Yisrael in our times returning to the land of Israel, to come together, to form this power of Zionism coming back to Israel, then creating a country, and Be'ezrat Hashem, the third stage is the spirit having this high spirit, this connection to Ribono Shel Olam, living with sanctity, Kedusha, and Ruach. That is the next stage. Be'ezrat Hashem, we feel part of it, and Be'ezrat Hashem we'll have the zchut to see even more. But the second point I want to talk about in the haftarah is not only the stages, but what brings Hashem to tell this to Yechezkel. What is the need? And the need comes from Am Yisrael's disbelief. לכן ינבא ועם ישראל say, ויאמר אלי בן אדם, העצמות האלה כל בית ישראל המה, הנה אומרים יבשו עצמותינו ואבדה תקוותנו נגזרנו לנו. Am Yisrael are saying, we're dry bones, we have lost all hope, we are deemed to complete catastrophe, we're going to be lost, there's no more continuation to Am Yisrael. They don't believe that there's going to be a tomorrow. And then comes the prophecy of Yechezkel and tells them the unbelievable will happen. You should believe and have faith in this unbelievable event that will happen. You will come back to life as a nation. And I think that the connection here to Yetziat Mitzrayim is that also the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, of a nation of slaves for generations, hundreds of years in Egypt, the ability, the idea, the concept that someone will leave Egypt and become a nation of its own and have their own country and their own Torah, something that isn't heard of, something unbelievable. The faith in Yetziat Mitzrayim can give the faith and the ability to cope with all the challenges that come afterwards to Am Yisrael, because if we manage to cope with the story of Egypt, Am Yisrael, Bezrat Hashem, will not be lost. And Chazon HaAtzamot HaYeveshot, the prophecy of the dry bones, seems to be only a development of the previous story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.